Hello everybody. Today I've decided to take you through a solo play of the Fantasy Flight Games board game Eldritch Horror. This is a co-op game for 1 to 8 players. It's a horror themed game steeped in the Cthulhu mythos. So let's get set up and get started. Step 1, get the board out, which we have here all laid out. It's a big board, map of the world. Step 2, what we're supposed to do is get all our tokens together. And I have them all here in this Plano box. There are 12 investigators to choose from, and I have chosen Trish Scarborough, the spy. Her unique action says if you do not have any clues, gain 1 clue. She has an ability here. If an investigator on your space spends a clue to reroll a die, he may reroll up to 2 dice instead. There's a little flavor text there. 7 health, 5 sanity. Down below we have her abilities. A will of 2, strength of 3, observation 4, influence 3, lore 1. On the back of the character card, we have the starting location. Trish starts in Central Russia, which is space number 16 on the board, and starts with an asset, which is the .45 automatic gun. Trish's health is 7 and sanity 5. To get Trish's .45 automatic, we come to this deck, which is the asset deck. And we just place that under her character sheet like so. The .45 automatic is an item, it's a weapon, and you get 3 more dice for strength tests during combat encounters. The next step is to pick an Elder God to face. So we have Azathoth. And Azathoth, we have to place the Doom track at 15 to start the game. So here's the Doom track at the very top of the board, and we've placed the token on the number 15. Next, we are instructed to place a token on the green comet of the Omen track, which is located in the top right of the game board. Now back on the Ancient Ones card, Azathoth, we have some other special instructions. When the Omen advances to the green space of the Omen track, advance Doom by 1 for each Eldritch token on that space. When 3 mysteries have been solved, investigators win the game. When Azathoth awakens, flip the sheet and resolve the world is devoured on the back. On to the next step, we are instructed to make sure we are able to draw our monster tokens randomly. So I have them all here in the Plano box, all ready to go. Next, we are instructed to grab Azathoth's Research deck and Mystery deck. This is the Research deck. This is the deck you use to interact with clues. You can tell it's Azathoth's because it has his picture on the deck. And here's Azathoth's Mystery cards. We solve 3 of these cards, we win the game. Next, we are told to shuffle the Expedition deck. That is this deck here, and it's all shuffled ready to go. Next step, we have to shuffle the Conditions deck, which is this deck, and the Spell deck. Now both these decks actually have special instructions in the back, which can only be viewed by the player when they are instructed to. And the same step, we have to shuffle the Asset deck, and then also this deck, which is the Unique Item deck. On to our next step, we are told to separate the Mythos deck into their 3 separate colors. Into the yellow deck, the far left one, then the green deck, which is the middle deck, and then the purple deck. How many cards we need of each color, the instructions are on Azathoth's card. So we need 1 green, 2 yellow, and 1 purple. So we'll turn these over and shuffle them up and then take what we need. Okay, I've turned them over here. So 1 green, 2 yellow, and 1 purple. So we now will shuffle these. Okay, I've shuffled those and put those off to the side. Now for stage 2 says 2 green, 3 yellow, 1 purple. So 2 green, 3 yellow, and 1 purple. We then shuffle these now. I've shuffled these. Now what you do is you place them underneath the first stage. So that would go right under here, like so. Here's the stage 1, here's stage 2, and I put it stage 1 on top of stage 2. And you don't shuffle them all together. You leave them like so. Now for the final stage, 2 green, 4 yellow, 0 purple. So 2 green, 4 yellow, and 0 purple. So now we shuffle the ones we just collected and place them underneath this deck. So there we have it. I've placed the 3rd stage under this deck. So you don't shuffle it anymore. Leave it as is. You draw from this during the Mythos phase. So we've laid down our Mythos deck, and that concludes step 8. Now to step 9, it tells us to grab the icon reference sheet. Now which one you grab depends on the number of players. We're playing a 1-player game, so this is the one we grab. If it's a 2-player game, we would use this side. And this would indicate to us, when called for during the game, how many gates we spawn, how many clue tokens we spawn, and how many monsters appear. And this game is for up to 8 players, so there's more of these reference cards that show for 3 players, 4 players, etc. So in step 9, it tells us to go to the reserve portion of the board. These are where you can purchase items, get followers, and the like. And what we do is we draw these cards. I've already done it, but you would draw it from the asset deck. And every time one of these items are purchased, you would then replace it from a card from the asset deck. This one is always in play though. This is not a card. It's actually painted right on the board. And it's called a bank loan, but we'll get to that later on. Also in step 9, we're instructed to place our Doom token down to keep track of our Doom. According to Azathoth's card, place it on the 15, which we've done. And again in step 9, we are told to be sure to put the token here for the Omen track on the green comet. Also during step 9, we have to refer to our reference sheet and spawn as many gates as it indicates. So we have to spawn 1 gate. Here are the gate tokens, and I have them all in here. So we'll grab this one right here. So we have to place this token. A gate opens in Tokyo. And there we've placed our gate in Tokyo. I like to use these stands that are used for the characters, for the gates as well. Just makes it easier to spawn on the board. Now, we are told to spawn a monster for that gate. Here are all the monsters, so I'll just grab a random one here. We have a skeleton. So, a skeleton ends up on Tokyo. And again, in step 9, there's a lot of steps in step 9. But we're supposed to take this expedition token and place it on the appropriate spot. And how we determine what is the proper spot for this token is we look at the top card of the expedition deck. So as you can see that picture right there, that indicates to us, place it on Antarctica. There it is. So if we go to that space, we then can draw a card from the expedition deck. And continuing our step 9 marathon, we have to spawn a clue token, and our reference card indicates 1 clue token. So here are all my clue tokens. I'm just going to run my finger here, shuffle them up. It's supposed to be a random one. Here we are. There's our clue token, and we place it on the Amazon, right there. And the Amazon is right here. There's our clue token. So we can interact with that token when we get to that space. And here is the deck you would use when you reach that clue token space. And finally, we then draw from the mystery deck. And all the different elder gods have their own mystery deck. You can see the picture is the same, which indicates this is Azathoth's mystery deck. So we draw this, read it, and follow the instructions. Seed of the Daemon Sultan. A strange green comet has fallen from the sky. Even after the impact, the meteorite continues to slowly burrow itself deeper into the earth. When this card enters play, place the mystery token on Tunguska. And here's the mystery token. So let's place that on Tunguska. And we've placed our mystery token on Tunguska. So when we reach there, we then can continue the instructions on the mystery card. We forgot one setup instruction here, which is on Azathoth's card. There's a setup instruction that says, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track. So let's do an Eldritch token. Let's put that here, right up there. Because if you recall, Here's one of the instructions on Azathoth's card. When the omen advances to the green space of the omen track, that's the comet, advance doom by 1 for each Eldritch token on that space. So throughout this game, there's going to be some cards that might place more of those Eldritch tokens on there, which could lead to more doom. So winning the game. Investigators immediately win the game if they solve 3 of the Ancient One's mysteries. If the Ancient One awakens, investigators will also need to solve the final mystery in order to win the game. As I showed you earlier, these are the mystery cards right here. So we just do our first one. It's the first one we can work on, and as soon as we're successful at this one, if we are successful, we would then draw a new one. When 3 are successfully completed, we automatically, immediately win the game. So the game consists of 3 phases per round. The first phase is the action phase, and then there's an encounter phase, and then what's called the mythos phase. So we can begin right now, and we will start with an action phase. So the action phase, these are my different options that I can perform. There's travel, so I can move 1 space, then spend travel tickets to move additional spaces. Prepare, gain 1 travel ticket, city spaces only. Acquire assets, I can test that ability, which is influence, and gain any number of assets of equal or lesser value from reserve. City spaces without monsters only. We can rest on a space, so we can rest, that's an action that will recover 1 health and sanity. Spaces without monsters only. Trade possessions with another investigator on the same space. Component action, so we can use unique investigator or possession abilities preceded by action or local action. On Trish's card, this is one of the action options she has. If you do not have any clues, gain 1 clue. Now you cannot perform the same action twice in a round. But what I think I've decided I'm going to do is I am on a city space, so I'm going to try to get some assets from the reserve, which is right here. And these are the cost for these particular assets. 3 successes I would need for the Witch Doctor, 2 successes for the Holy Cross, 1 for the whiskey, and 1 for bandages. And to get successes, you have to roll a 5 or 6 on a 6-sided die. These are just regular 6-siders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the 3, the number here, indicates under my influence, because I have to roll an influence, indicates I have to roll 3 dice. So let's see how many successes I get. 1 success. A 6. So what I can afford at the reserve here, I got 1 success, so I can get the whiskey if I want. I can get the bandages. And that's all I can afford. Now, this over here, this bank loan, I could take advantage of this. This is 0. This is something that you can just take advantage of. And what happens here is that when performing an acquire assets action, which I am doing, you may gain a debt condition to immediately add 2 successes to your test result. Well, I'm not doing that because I just want to get good old-fashioned whiskey. I would then place the whiskey here and then replenish this space with a new asset card. Here's our asset card. We have Lodge Researcher. Ally. If you defeat a monster during a combat encounter, recover 1 sanity and gain 1 clue. Now for my second action, I am going to get a railroad ticket. Now, important to know here is that the city you're in order to get a railroad ticket, you have to be in a city space, but that city space also has to have railroads connected to it. So in this instance, I wouldn't be able to get a C token, because there's C tokens and railroad tokens, because I am not connected to a C space or a C path, just the railroads. So let's get a railroad token. And there's our railroad token. Put that off to the side. Take advantage of that later on. So that completes the action phase. Now we're on to the encounter phase. Each investigator must encounter his space. Must encounter every monster in the space, 1 at a time. Well, there are no monsters on this space. If there are no monsters on the space, choose 1 encounter to resolve. Location encounter. Either resolve an encounter card based on the space's artwork or resolve a general encounter card. Or token encounter. Resolve an encounter card with that corresponds to a token on the space. The space I'm on does not contain any tokens, but it is a city symbol. So we'll take a card from the general. So the general deck is the black deck. So let's see what happens. Okay, there's 3 different paragraphs to read here. So if you're on a city space, you read from that one. If you're on a wilderness space, you read that one. A sea space, the bottom one. But we are on a city space. You wander through the aisles of an antique bookstore. Although many extremely rare books can be found here, the organizational system is almost impossible to decipher. So now I make this check, which is the book symbol -1. The book symbol is lore, and my skill is 1. Now the card indicates that it's a -1, which means that I would lose a dice. But you can't go below 1. So I would still roll 1 dice, hoping for a 5 or a 6. A 6, so we passed. If you pass, you are able to track down a hidden gem, gain 1 tome artifact. So here is the artifact deck. Now we have to take a tome artifact. So we'll just keep going through this until we come across a tome artifact. Silver key, okay, it's an item, magical. That is not a tome. Glass, item, magical, not a tome. Cultes de Goulet, item, tome. I don't think I said that right. So we get the Culte de Goulet. Culte de Goulet. Action. So what does this allow us to do? We can take an action with this, and we can test lore. If you pass, you may spend 1 sanity to gain 2 clues. I simply just shuffled the artifact deck and then placed it off to the side. We are finished with this card now, and we just discard this beside its stack. Now that concludes the encounter phase. Now we move on to the 3rd and final phase of this round, the Mythos phase. Resolve 1 Mythos card. Resolve the effect in the order listed below. Only resolve the steps matching the icons on the card. Let's draw from the Mythos deck. There it is. What do we have? Okay, well, let's read the flavor text. Strange forces stretch you in all directions. The portals between worlds are pulling reality apart, and you feel these unearthly energies coming from all corners of the globe. So let's go back to our reference sheet and see what these symbols mean. Okay, our first symbol is that symbol. So that means advance the omen clockwise by 1. Then advance doom by 1 for each gate on the game board that corresponds to the current omen. Here's our omen track. So we move that to there. Now there's only 1 gate on the board, and that's in Tokyo. And as you can see here, it has that constellation. Now that matches this constellation. So we have to move the doom track down 1. It's currently at 15. We move it down to 14. Just a little closer to our doom. Back to our card. It has squiggly tentacle symbol. Now we go down here. Monster Surge. Resolve a monster surge on each space containing a gate that corresponds to the current omen, or spawn 1 gate if none are on the game board. Well, we've already determined that symbol is the same as the omen track, so we have to draw a monster. So let's draw a random monster here. What do we have? What comes through the gate? A cultist. Okay. Use the cultist information as listed on the Ancient One sheet. And on the Ancient One sheet, this is the information we would follow if we were to encounter the cultist. And we've placed that cultist in Tokyo. So there's a cultist and a skeleton somewhere in Tokyo. If we do go to that space, we would have to encounter the monsters, but we would get to encounter the monsters in any order we like. So you do have to fight both of them in the same round, but you get to decide in which order. To our final symbol here, the magnifying glass. Okay, to a reference sheet. Spawn clues. Spawn clues as indicated by the reference card. Our reference card says 1 clue. Let's do that. And this clue spawns in the Himalayas. There's the Himalayas. There's a clue there. It's pretty close to where Trish is right now. Well, kind of. And finally, on the card, There's an event. Torn asunder. Each investigator loses health equal to the number of gates on the game board that correspond to the current omen. If there are no gates that correspond to the current omen, advance the omen by 1. Well, there is 1 gate, so we lose 1 health. Okay, Trish is down to 6 health. And then we simply just discard that card, place it beside the Mythos deck. So that concludes the first round. We're back at the action phase. So, we are currently over here, somewhere in Russia. That was a terrible Russian accent. And then now we can pick what we want to do. Well, I think my first action is I need a couple of clues, because if I can get 2 clues, I can get over here to Tunguska, and then in Tunguska, I can use those clues to try to solve the mystery card and be done away with the first mystery. So I need 2 clues. Well, I have to pass this test and have 2 clues. So for my first action, I am going to use the action available on Trish's card, and if you do not have any clues, gain 1 clue. Well, Trish has no clues, so let's get a clue, okay? So now we have a clue token. Now, what are these clue tokens good for? Well, we don't interact with the other side of the clue in this case. Only when we're drawing to place them on the board, because it has the name of a location on there. But we just have one for ourselves here. And what this allows us to do is to, well, interact with mystery cards occasionally. But it also lets us re-roll a dice when performing tests. So that can be very handy. Now for my second action, I think I'm going to read my tome. So I'm going to test lore. If we pass, you may spend 1 sanity to gain 2 clues. So that'll be very helpful, because then we can go to Tunguska, interact with that mystery token, and hopefully pass the test on here to spend those 2 clues on here to solve this mystery. So we have to test lore, which is 1 die. Let's do that. 5 or 6? 1. Okay, so failed, but I'm going to spend this clue in hopes that I roll a 5 or 6. So I get to re-roll by spending that clue. Let's do that. Hey, success. Okay, so we rolled a 5, a success, and we get to now spend 1 sanity to gain 2 clues. So let's get rid of a sanity and get 2 clues. So I've placed those 2 clues beside Trish's card. Now we don't discard this item. There's no instructions on here to discard it, so we can keep on doing this action when the opportunity arises. So that concludes the action phase. We are now off to the encounter phase again. And well, we haven't moved, so we will be drawing another one of those same cards from the same deck as last round. And we are still on a city space. The police report that people are being abducted by a monster dwelling in the sewer system. Wandering through the underground tunnels, you are suddenly attacked by a deep one. So we have to test strength. Trish's strength is 3. So we get 3 dice and hope for a 5 or 6. Oh, actually, we also have this item here. We have our 45 automatic. This gives us +3. So we get to roll 3 dice during combat encounters. Well, this is a combat encounter. So 3 + 3 is 6. So I'm going to roll all 4 of these and then add 2 more after this roll. Okay, no successes. 4, we get to roll 2 more dice for 6. That's a fail. What happens to us? If you pass, which we didn't, you defeat the creature and rescue its hostage. Gain 1 random ally asset from the deck. If you fail, lose 1 health from the struggle. So I have to turn one of these 3s into a 2. 2. All right, that concludes the encounter phase. We are now, again, off to the Mythos phase. Let's draw a card from the Mythos deck. Let's see what happens. You wrap the towel around some ice and apply it to your injuries, hoping to reduce the swelling. You make a mental list of all the sacrifices that you've had to make and those that you've asked of others. All that terrible loss, and you can't for the life of you think of any good that's been accomplished. Okay, so that was the flavor text. Now let's look at the symbols. Let's get to the game mechanics here. First one is advance the omen clockwise by 1. Well, we've done this before, so let's advance the omen track. And then for each gate on the game board that corresponds to the current omen, we will then advance the doom track. Put that right there. So there's our symbol. Now the gate that is on the board, there's only one gate, it has that symbol, that constellation. So we do not advance the doom track. It stays at 14. The next symbol, resolve reckoning effects. Resolve reckoning effects on components in the following order. So now the monsters on the game board. So we have to check to see if any of the monsters have that symbol on their token. And the skeleton doesn't have it, and the cultist does, but that's simply to remind us where the stats are for that character, which is on Azathoth's card. So after monsters on the game board, we then check for reckoning effects on the Ancient One sheet. Ancient One sheet. And Azathoth does not have any reckoning effects. We would then check for Mythos cards in play, and we don't have any Mythos cards in play. So then we go to the next one, the last one, possessions and conditions held by investigators. And Trisha doesn't have any items here or conditions that instruct any sort of reckoning effect. So now we go to the last symbol, and that symbol's here. Spawn gates. Spawn gates as indicated by the reference card and spawn one monster on each newly spawned gate. Grab our gate. Where are we going here? Where's the gate? Buenos Aires. Oh, and I forgot to show you. It told us to refer to the reference card. Here we are. So we spawn one gate. We have done that. The gate is in Buenos Aires. And then now we spawn a monster for that gate. And the monster is Ghost. Ooh. And we simply put the ghost here. I'm going to get a stand for our gate here. Okay, so Buenos Aires has its gate and its monster. All right, we've finished the spawn gates. Now, finally, the event. All for nothing. Shuffle a solved mystery back into the deck unless investigators as a group spend clues equal to half the investigators. Well, it's half rounded up, so one investigator. But we do not have any mystery cards to shuffle back in the deck. If there were no solved mysteries, advance doom by 1. Ooh. Okay, so 14 down to 13. And that concludes the Mythos phase. Next round. Actions. 2 actions. What to do, what to do. Well, we have our 2 clue tokens. So that means, if you recall from our mystery card, that will help us potentially solve this mystery. So let's get to Tunguska so we can interact with that card. And by interacting with that card, we have to get to Tunguska, which has the mystery token. So first of all, I'm in a city though. So maybe I'll do 1 action before moving. Seeing how I'm still on a city space, before moving, I've decided I'm going to get a ticket, another ticket, in case I want to do some traveling. Great distances quickly. So now 2 tickets, so that's my first action. Second action will be to move to Tunguska. That concludes the action phase. Now we're off to the encounter phase. So we are going to interact with that token on that space to deal with this card. So what do we have to do now? As an encounter, an investigator on Tunguska, which we are, may attempt to search for signs of the impact of the dead forest. So we have to test observation. Trish's observation is 4, so we have to roll 4 dice. Okay, 2 successes. If he passes, which she did, she discovers the strange green meteorite. She may spend 2 clues to place 1 Eldritch token on this card. Let's do that. Here are 2 clue tokens. We'll put those back in the box and grab 1 Eldritch token. Put that right on here. So, at the end of the Mythos phase, If there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half the investigators, solve this mystery. Well, like I said earlier, you round up for these sort of situations, so that would be 1 token is needed, and we have that. But before we can do that, we have to go through the Mythos phase, because that concluded the encounter phase. So let's draw a Mythos card. Sitting down for a simple meal in a restaurant, it strikes you how alien the people around you seem. After everything you've seen and all the arcane secrets you have learned, can you truly think of yourself as one of them? The maitre d' asks you to please stop carving into the table with the knife. Okay. So Trish is getting a little weird here. So let's check out the first symbol. We have advance the omen clockwise by 1, then advance doom by 1 for each gate on the game board that corresponds to the current omen. We've been here before, so let's do it. Advance by 1. That constellation. That gate has it, and the gate in Buenos Aires also has it. So we advance the doom track by 2. Next, resolve reckoning effects. So we've done this before. So monsters on the game board, well, none of the monsters have it. So we then move down to the next one. Ancient One sheet. Well, we checked that last Mythos phase as well, and the Ancient One does not have any reckoning effects. Mythos cards in play. We do not have any Mythos cards in play. And then possessions and conditions held by investigators, and we still have none. So that concludes that symbol. Now to the final one. That is spawn another gate. So we have to spawn another gate this round. Spawn gates is indicated by the reference card and spawn 1 monster on each newly spawned gate. Our reference card indicates to spawn 1 gate. Okay, let's grab our gate. A gate opens in Shanghai. So we take that and put it here, and then we have to spawn a random monster. And out of that gate in Shanghai comes Hound of Tindalos. Oh, I hate those things. All right. So the Hound of Tindalos that we've just drawn has a reckoning symbol on the bottom right. So move this monster, so next reckoning effect, we move this monster to the nearest space containing an investigator. That'd be Trish. Then an investigator on that space immediately encounters it. So the Hound of Tindalos comes sniffing you out. But that will be the next reckoning effect that happens. We're past that stage of this card. So now we simply just go down here to the event. Treacherous Magic. Event. Each investigator may discard any number of spells. Then he loses 1 sanity for each spell he has. Each investigator that lost sanity from this effect also gains a madness condition. Well, we don't have any spells, so we don't have to worry about this card. So we simply discard this card, and that's the end of the Mythos phase. So now is the end of the Mythos phase, so we can continue with this instructions here on this mystery card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half the investigators, solve this mystery. Well, we have 1 token, which is equal to half, rounded up. So we've completed this card. So now we immediately draw a second mystery. 1 down, 2 to go to win the game and defeat the terrible Azathoth. So what is our next mystery? It is the true name. Fragments of Azathoth's true name exist in long-forgotten tomes. It is said that if a person speaks his name aloud 3 times, the blasphemous sound will grant the speaker great power. So when this card enters play, place a number of Eldritch tokens equal to half investigators, each on a random space. So I have an Eldritch token here. Now to determine what random space this goes on to, what we have to do is draw a clue token and use the city on the back of that clue token to tell us where the Eldritch token goes. Draw this one. We have Buenos Aires. Oh, it's a busy area. So the Eldritch token goes on Buenos Aires. And then after doing that, we simply just return that clue token back to the box. So let's read on. As an encounter, an investigator on a space containing an Eldritch token may attempt to find information about Azathoth's true name. He may spend 2 clues to place that Eldritch token on this card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half investigators, solve this mystery. So now that we've completed that mystery, we'll get rid of the mystery token. Put that back in the box. So back to the action phase. Well, to be able to solve the mystery card, that's way down here to be able to tackle that. And I'm way up here. Trish is still way up in the northeast here. So what's going to happen, I think what I'm going to try to do is close one of these gates and then make my way down to Buenos Aires and take out this hound before he comes after me. But my first action, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heal. So Trish has currently 5 health. Put 1 more on there, because when you do a rest action, what happens is you get 1 sanity and 1 health. So I put that down. Now you can't go over your starting quota, of course. So I'm back now to my starting quota of sanity, and 7 is the max for the health for Trish here. I currently have 6 now, so 1 away from max. So now that has been resolved, the rest action. So now, going to do a move action. So how that's done is that you get, when you do a move action, you get to move to the next space free. But then if I now have the option to continue on my move action by spending tokens, and I'm trying to get to Shanghai, so I'm going to spend that path is a railroad token to get here. So let's spend a railroad token. So take one of our railroad tokens and put it in the box. All right, now we enter the encounter phase. Well, first things first, we're on a monster space, so we do have to immediately fight this monster. So let's get into combat here. So combat works exactly like all the rest of the tests. It's tests. So the first one we have to do is a will test. And we have to do it against the 2 sanity. So we want to be able to score at least 2 successes or more to avoid any damage to sanity. Trish's will is 2. So let's get 2 dice and roll. Success. 1 success. So we have 2 sanity here on the hound's card, and I rolled 1 success, so 2 minus 1 is 1. So I take 1 point of damage. I would have needed at least 2 successes to take no damage. So take a sanity and put it back in the box. Next test. Now the hound has 3 toughness, so we have to do 3 points of damage to it to kill it. Now we have to do a test of strength, and at -1 though, so we lose 1 dice. So if we come over to Trish, she has a 3 strength, plus though her 45 automatic, so 6 minus the 1. So we get to roll 5 dice for this test. And we want to make at least 3 successes to be able to take no damage from the hound. Here's 4 dice. Oh, great. 2 successes. Roll 1 more dice. 3 successes. So we do a point of damage for each success that we get. So we did 3 points of damage. So we have killed the hound. And the hound does 3 points of damage to you if you don't roll that many successes. We rolled 3 successes, so we take no damage as well, and we take out the hound. Okay, so we have defeated the hound. Now we can interact with this gate. So let's try closing the gate in Shanghai. And to close a gate, we have to resolve a gate card. So let's see what happens here. Let's read this. Yuggeth. You discover a fetid creature with wings and webbed feet. The beast is strange, like something from your wildest dreams. You may spend 1 clue to resolve the pass effect. If you do not spend the clue, resolve the fail effect. So Trish has no clues, so we have to resolve the fail effect on this card. The creature is terrifying, but you can keep your calm. You'll be able to overpower it. So we have to test. Will. 2 dice. Fail. If you pass, you subdue the creature and use it to return home. Close this gate. If you fail, lose 1 health. So we lose a health, and we do not close the gate. Maybe next time. So we just discard this card now and place it beside the portal deck. So the portal in Shanghai remains there. Now that ends the encounter phase. So we will move on now to the Mythos phase. Let's get a Mythos card. When people see your jaundiced skin or hear your loud coughing fits, they avoid you like a leper. Without exception, the disease next brings fever and swollen red sores. Death follows in a few weeks. Spreading sickness. So let's do the symbols at the top here. So we have the clue symbol. There's the clue symbol. We are instructed to spawn clues as indicated by the reference card. Our reference card indicates to spawn 1 clue token. Tokyo. So there is a clue in Tokyo, along with a couple monsters in a portal. Tokyo's busy. So the next symbol is the place rumor token. Place a rumor token on the indicated space. And the indicated space is space 17. Space 17. Here's our rumor token. Place that right there on that city spot, right beside us. So that concludes all the symbols on the card. Let's go down here to the text. Ongoing rumor. As an encounter, an investigator on Space 17 may consult the Bombay doctors. The more patients they treat, the closer they get to finding a cure. He may spend clues equal to investigator number, in this case 1, to solve this rumor. He may spend 1 fewer clue for each health token on this card. So when a reckoning effect takes place, this is our instructions. We will place a health token on this card. Then each investigator loses 1 health for each health token on this card. Ooh. So this is a bit of a nuisance, and typically rumors are in this game. So we've placed the rumor token down, so we'll just leave this card off to the side here for reference later when we encounter it, if we encounter it. So that concludes the Mythos effect. So now we're back to the next round, to a new round, and we get to do 2 actions. What to do. So we were in Russia originally, then we moved to Tunguska, we solved the mystery there, and then made our way to Shanghai, beat up a hound, very, very evil hound. And then from there, we tried to close that gate, but we couldn't do that. So to solve our next mystery, we'd have to go all the way down to Buenos Aires, which is way down here. So I could stay in Shanghai again, do a couple of actions here, and then encounter that portal again. But I think I'm going to race down to Buenos Aires. But on my way there, I'm going to stop by this rumor token. So for my first 2 actions, the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of Trish's action here, which is if you do not have any clues, gain 1 clue. So there's our clue token. Now for our second action. Going to move from Shanghai and go to number 17 and take care of that rumor token. So that concludes the action phase. Now to the encounter phase. We are on the rumor token here. I could make a choice though. If I wanted, I could either interact with the token or I can interact with the city space. I can draw a card, but it's more important to take care of this right now. So let's take care of that. So let's go back to the rumor card. So it said here, what we can do to solve this rumor is we can spend clues equal to investigator numbers to solve this rumor, the number of investigators. So let's spend a clue token and get rid of this rumor. So we can discard this now to the Mythos deck. So let's get rid of our clue token. And we can get rid of the rumor token. We are done with it. Solved. So that concludes the encounter phase. Now we move on to the Mythos phase. Draw a Mythos card. Sweating and exhausted, you stop to rest in what little shade you can find. You've already heard stories of this heat wave claiming the lives of sick or elderly individuals. You fear that if you keep going at this pace, you might fall victim to it as well. So the first symbol we have, advance the omen track, right there. So we advance the omen track to up here, and there's an Eldritch token there. So we have to now move the doom track down 1. Because why? Because of our rules with Azathoth here. When the omen advances to the green space of the omen track, advance doom by 1 for each Eldritch token on that space. Next symbol, reckoning. So for reckoning effects, first we deal with the monsters in the game board. None of our monsters have a reckoning effect. Then the Ancient One sheet. There are no reckoning effects for that. Mythos cards in play. Now, we don't have any in play anymore. That rumor card we had was a Mythos card, but we solved that rumor, so we do not have to deal with the reckoning effect of that card. Then, possessions and conditions held by investigators. We do not have any possessions or conditions held by Trisha that have a reckoning effect. Our next symbol is the Spawn Gates. So Spawn Gates is indicated by the reference card and spawn one monster on each newly spawned gate. So once again, Spawn Gate, spawn one gate. A tear in reality happens. But where? In Rome. All right, we've put a gateway down in Rome. Now for the monster. And the monster that comes out of the gate is a warlock. So there's a warlock in Rome, and he has a reckoning effect. So when a reckoning effect happens, we'll have to roll one die. On a 1 or 2, the nearest investigator gains a cursed condition. That would be Trish. And we've placed the warlock down in Rome. That concludes the symbols. So let's get down to the event here. Heat wave singes the globe. Event. Each investigator loses 3 health unless he becomes delayed. So a delayed investigator. What happens with being delayed is that you would then lose your actions. So I would not be able to take any actions on my next turn. I would go right to the encounter phase. So I think instead, Trish is going to go ahead and lose 3 hit points. Trish is going to soak in the hot sun and just lose the hit points. So that concludes that card. Just discard it with the Mythos cards. And now we are on to the next round. That ends the Mythos phase, and Trish can go ahead and decide her next action. Will Trish Scarborough make it to Buenos Aires, close the gate, defeat the ghost, solve the second mystery card, and bring her closer to saving the world from the dreaded Azathoth? Time will tell. But not this time. I think I'm going to stop right there. Eldritch Horror. Short on strategy. The dice do a lot of the talking. Big on adventure, though. It really gives you the feel of globe-trotting. I really love the eloquence of the flavor text. It is a very immersive game, I personally find. I like that feeling of high adventure. And I feel the game is very successful at that. This game has a number of expansions out for it. It's been out for a few years now, so I can certainly see myself picking up some of them. I understand there's small box expansions and big box expansions, and I will definitely be exploring that further because I find this game a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying this one a lot. Both as a solo game, but I have played it with one other player so far, and it really, really comes out when you play it with more than one, though, certainly. So I'm hoping to get at least 3 to 4 friends together and try it. So I hope this playthrough has provided you with enough information to determine whether or not you yourself would like to explore this game further. So thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye for now.